Everyone, please take a moment, maybe even once a day, to check the community channel. This is home. When you come to my channel, then there's videos up here, playlist, community. Check that. I've got raffles every single day, and this one only has 2 spots left. And I've got membership raffle too, for the membership to 7K medals, where you get gold and silver at cost. So let's fill it up, folksies. 2 spots left, and check every day, because every day I've got a new one up. This one is the current one. Well, great Sunday, my friends and family and whoever else is out there listening, subscribers, some enemies probably, maybe a troll or two. I did not expect a time change last night, and so I didn't know we were having daylight saving fall back. So I got up at 7 only to find out I was up at 6 a.m., which confused me for a minute. But I got it all figured out now. So I am making a quick video to tell you guys about a luncheon I went to yesterday. And it was with this woman, Star Parker, right here. And she is a right-wing Republican, apparently politician. She obviously does a lot. She's out there, she's active, she's an activist, conservative, and she's created this cure thing that is, it's called the Center for Urban Renewal and Education. And I went with my friend who I've told a lot about B0ULE stuff, and kind of mentioned their part, what I believe their part is in control of a lot, especially these big cities with the inner city problem. And we've also talked about in my live shows that you can find videos where people that live in these urban ghetto inner city areas, that they've seen gun crates just sitting out. They'll find loads of guns just all the time in the same places, and they're not going to turn them back into the police. You can look to Gary Webb from the 80s, who was exposing the crack epidemic, and he was killed for that. He took 2 bullets to the face, and it was not a suicide. And so what you see is that drugs have been introduced into the inner cities. Guns have been introduced into the inner cities. You have a whole bunch of people. They're not all black. They're Mexican. They're white. There's a lot of different people that live in the inner city, but mainly they are minorities. Mainly a lot of black people. And what you see is their controllers are also black people who are making a lot of money to keep them in poverty. Just look at Elijah Cummings in Maryland. Baltimore, Maryland. I don't think I need to explain much more than that. But you can look at Chicago too. I mean, the murder rates. So when they're giving these areas the guns and the drugs, they're destroying them. And then what they do is they come through, and I'm not talking about Star Parker right now, I'm talking about the controllers. What they do then is they want to revitalize, is the word, their neighborhoods. And when they revitalize their neighborhoods, what they're really doing is what's called gentrification. Now, I brought this up to this Star Parker woman at this luncheon. I asked her, I brought up what the B0ULE, I brought up the Divine Nine. I mentioned what the Divine Nine is. It's the 8 fraternities plus the B0ULE being the 9. I mentioned their control in inner cities, and what does she know about that, and the gentrification being that is occurring. This woman knows how to speak. She's been doing this since 1995. She has a very lengthy answer for pretty much every question that was asked. And she had a very lengthy answer for mine. What she didn't do is address at all anything I said about B0ULE, Divine Nine, or the fraternities. She didn't even say she'd never heard of that. She didn't even acknowledge it. What she did do is spend a lot of time telling me why she doesn't like the word gentrification, and that I shouldn't listen to anybody who uses that word. The reason that I believe that I'm correct in using the word gentrification is because when we look at the controllers, like I showed on my video with Nipsey Hussle and Karen Bass, I mentioned Karen Bass being one of the Congress people that is causing issues in that area in LA where they're trying to rebuild. Every year in May, the B0ULE rededicate themselves to their fraternal order and to the Skull and Bones. Okay, so this is literally the Skull and Bones for the black community. And I made videos about this. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I've made videos about this. Star Parker got upset about the word gentrification, said this is not gentrification. This is what's called revitalization. Why wouldn't we go into these areas and get these ugly parts out and rebuild? Why wouldn't we go in and rebuild all this yucky stuff and put in this nice railway and charge more for our rent for the people who can't afford to live there in the first place? Why wouldn't we do that? They're saying these people aren't doing anything for themselves. They're not doing anything to help themselves. So they want to restructure these areas and put in these nice homes and these nice railways right through Crenshaw and all these other places. And probably in other cities are doing it too. Now, they've done this before, guys. They did this in the, I don't remember what years it was, but in New York City, rather than just move them out and rebuild a nice new area, they set fires to the apartment buildings to build their roadways through there. They just set them on fire. So I guess this is the nicer, more quieter way of doing it. They're not setting fire to their homes to rebuild in here. But it is gentrification, and the reason she didn't like that word was because she says if you look up the word gentrification, it's literally whites taking over the blacks' land or somebody else's land. Whitey taking over. But that is what is happening. Because these people on the left all work for and with and aid and abet, or whatever you want to call it, the Democrats and the B0ULE, the higher, that who controls them. Now, I don't know if it's the JOOS or literal white people, but that's arguable, right? We don't always know these things, but these aren't the main controllers. This is just somebody that has control of an area, who's buddies with this guy who has control of that area, who had a hand in this situation right here. So interesting look that these guys have too. I mean, I'm not going to go there. The point I'm making here is that this woman, Star Parker, spent a lot of time talking to me about gentrification being a bad word, that it's revitalization. Now, she's on the right, guys. This is a right-wing woman. This is not a Democrat. She's a known Republican since 1995. I believe she's doing great work. I'm not talking badly about this woman at all. She's doing great work. What is interesting to me is how she did not want to answer my question, and how apparently that's just not something she's supposed to talk about, because she didn't even act like she didn't know what I expected her to say. She wasn't sure what I was talking about, but she didn't even address that part of the question, and just really spent a lot of time on talking about that this is not gentrification. She created what's called the Center for Urban Renewal and Education. I believe there is a great way to revitalize neighborhoods. That's not my point about revitalizing the neighborhoods. I'm saying you've got a group of people who have never had a culture. This isn't coming from me. This is coming from other black people I listen to who talk about the same thing or similar. They've never had a culture of their own. They've never been capable of really doing a lot as far as creating their own anything. They don't own anything. There's a few people. I mean, there are black people in the world that have great businesses and they're wealthy and they're doing a lot. But for the most part, we've got this inner city problem where there's just no creativity. There's no ability to see out their true potential. There's no ability. You can argue with me. You can say I'm wrong about this. You can call me a racist. You can do whatever you want, guys, but I've been talking about this. So this is not the first time I've talked about this. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll call me those things. You'll tell me I'm an idiot, or you'll call me a racist, and you won't understand what this is about. But this has been being pushed. The drugs, the hip-hop, all right? The music itself. I watched this great video. Is hip-hop really a weapon? Satanic music industry is exposed by Truth Unedited. Great video. Totally explains the music aspect of it. And then you've got the political aspect of it. You've got the sports aspect of it. It's all connected, guys. These people, it's all connected. Gary Webb talking about pushing the drugs in the 80s, getting killed for it. Okay, and then you hear these reports from people who live in the inner cities where gun crates are being dropped. So to me, it's proving that this allegiance to the B0ULE is really what is gentrification, to push the black people out of their neighborhoods and just move them along to kill them off as much as possible, and then move them out. And it is a tragedy that they don't want to know about it. Along that note, Star Parker mentioned something I hadn't heard about. This was apparently news back in May, that there are these sealed FBI audio tapes alleging Martin Luther King Jr. had affairs with 40 women and watched while a friend raped a woman. And they sent him a letter telling him to kill himself. So this is all very curiously added to the mix of information I do already know about Martin Luther King. If you don't recall, I did a live video talking about Martin Luther King and Jesse Jackson. I think it was live. It might have been recorded, but and that Martin Luther King was a CIA operative and Jesse Jackson was his handler. Basically, though, I don't know what his choice and decision was in the end. As far as I can understand, talking with other friends who know something about this, I think he started to sound a little too much like Malcolm X. But obviously, I mean, they're telling him to commit suicide and telling him how disgusting he is for all these acts. And I guess Hoover just hated him, just absolutely hated him. And so he really was keeping a close eye on him and his wife. Very interesting. I got to do more research on this. I don't have a lot to say about it right now because I haven't even read these full articles. But it sounds like the tapes are sealed until 2027. I don't understand what kind of deal that is, but the documents say quite a bit about what apparently they believed they were finding out or saying about what he was up to. And anyway, Star Parker herself is the one that brought this up at this luncheon yesterday, so I had not known. Found it very interesting, and I want to tell you guys about it because I want to give my side of the story on what gentrification is, because I didn't get to respond to her, but nor was I going to in front of this group of people who had literally no idea what we were really talking about underneath all of that BS she was spewing about gentrification. But it is gentrification, guys, and I have made videos about it, especially this one. This Nipsey Hussle video is exactly what I talk about in that. And I recommend you watch it if you're interested in the black community and what's really going on to these people. But when you look at the reason why it's so bad, we got to come together, put our minds together and our heads together and say, what do we do now, guys? Like, how do we as individuals try to do something about this? And I don't have an answer to that, but maybe we can put our heads together and come up with one. God bless you guys. I appreciate you and love you. Peace.